Welcome back to the Monday Mashup, the show we bring you each and every week on the upper tier on YouTube. Head over there, light up that channel. Audio versions of the show are available on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. And if you'd like to contact the show, you'll get us on Gmail, the Upper Tier Podcast. You'll also get us on Facebook and Instagram, the Upper Tier, and on Twitter at _upper_tier. Joining me tonight for the Monday Mashup, my brothers in arms, joining us from a very new channel, but an old podcast, Dynamo's Dozen. Ian Kelly, how are we, Ian? No?
Not a good night, Ian, no?
How are we, Ian? No? Ian's doing well.
All good, my brother, yeah.
You're back.
Again.
And he's
live from the African nations. There's been a bit of a time delay.
Also joining me, my partner on the podcast, as always, Darren. How are we, Darren?
There's a bit of something going on here. I don't know whether the Russians have started the missile launch a little bit earlier than expected. I don't know.
That Zoom update again, probably. Also joining us, our resident referee on the channel, Mark. How we doing, Mark?
How's it going, lads? It could be a busy night for me tonight, I think.
Another jersey pulled out of the archives again.
Yeah, Giggsy long sleeve.
He wouldn't have it any other way, sure he wouldn't. Hey. Well, this is the Monday Mashup, the show that we bring you each and every week, where we will review the weekend's action, but we will also talk some of the hot topics that have come up this week. And for everyone, as a hint, we will be definitely talking about VAR. There is no doubt about it. Let's take a rundown through the results anyway, starting with Friday, Watford 0, Norwich 3. Then we get into Saturday, Everton 0, Aston Villa 1. Stevie G pulling the wool over the Blues again. 3 o'clock, Man United 1, West Ham 0. The late show, Cavani onto Rashford. Leeds 0, Newcastle 1. Brentford 1, Wolves 2. Southampton 1, Man City 1. One of my favourite results of the weekend, obviously. Then we get into Sunday, where some of the controversy started anyway. Arsenal 0, Burnley 0, Sean Dyche digging in and winning a point at the Emirates. Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 3. Certainly one game that Mark will be talking about, there's no doubt about it. Leicester 1, Brighton 1. The late show again, but Danny Welbeck this time, not our friend Maupay. And we rounded out with Chelsea 2, Tottenham 0. Great performance by the Blues, not unexpected against Tottenham. More of the same and more of the norm. Ian will be here telling us about Chelsea. Where do we begin? Let's start Man United, Darren. Late show, but a good result, a very important result, and kind of what we would expect from United. Don't give up, 93rd minute or whatever it was.
Yeah, man, it was an absolutely huge result for us, I have to say. Really felt like a 6-pointer with, the positions on the table and stuff like that. West Ham were obviously occupying that fourth spot that we were after. I think 1-0, I'm not going to say it flattered us or flattered West Ham, but I kind of felt like we controlled the game from start to finish. West Ham didn't create an awful lot, nor did we in terms of clear-cut chances, but we had control of the game. And I know that's something that Wreck-It Ralph has talked about in recent weeks, about controlling the game and stuff like that. And we did. He really, really controlled the game on Saturday without kind of opening West Ham up too much. But it was great that the lads kept going. And by the end of the game, he'd really rolled the dice. I mean, he had Cavani, Ronaldo, Bruno, Rashford, Martial all on the pitch at the same time. And the boys managed to just nick that goal at the end, which is huge. It looked like it was back to the old days. It was Man United just trying and knocking on the door. And eventually they were able to crowbar that door open and knock one in, So it was great, really big result for us. I'm delighted, I have to say. Good week of result for United.
Yeah, I think, Mark, the reverting back to the 4-3-3 was huge as well, wasn't it? This 4-2-2-2 larky just doesn't suit United at all, sure doesn't?
No, it was actually good. Obviously, Maguire, for him to get minutes under his belt, he looked comfortable, made a good few tackles. Fred, I thought, had a fantastic game. We've talked about him here, saying he's a workhorse, but he's improving over the last month or two. You can see him improving, spreading the ball, his passing is brilliant. His awareness of where his teammates are as well has improved 110%. So I thought he had a really, really good game. on Saturday. But yeah, no, the 4-3-3. Hopefully, obviously now we have a break there. The lads are over in Dubai, warm weather training, so hopefully they can work more on it over there. And I think as well, obviously Rashford's 2 goals in the last 2 games, that's done his confidence wonders. He needed that. It's one of those, you get one, you'll get a few now. And in a way, it's kind of bad that we have the little break, because you want to just play, you want to keep continuing on. But hopefully he can do that when he gets back,
Yeah, absolutely. Huge result, I think, in terms of the top 4 race anyway. I think a draw wouldn't have been any good. And like, fair play to Ralph as well, making the changes and putting those forward players on to try and push the boat, But I always felt, looking at the game as well as West Ham, it looked like they were always trying to just dig in to protect that 4th place, as opposed to go and try and express themselves and win the game. I thought Antonio was very deep at times and stuff like that, and they invited you onto them too much, really, So, but yeah, great result. Ian, Chelsea 2, Tottenham 0, not unexpected. Certainly a game of some interesting decisions.
Oh, and he's gone.
Well, anyway, that was an amazing game.
The lights are on, but there's nobody home.
Can I just say one thing? I was absolutely delighted that decision went against Harry Kane yesterday, because he's one of the players that would go down so easily. The push on Thiago Silva, and he's given out about it. Remember, he scored, but he's one of the players that goes down so easily.
Now, just before you go there, you're a referee. You're supposed to be impartial. You can't have an opinion like that. You're supposed to tell us from a refereeing point of view how this will go, but we'll get into that in the VAR section.
Yeah.
I'll talk about my own team anyway. Crystal Palace 1, Liverpool 3. I thought we rode or looked greatly. Darren got on to me yesterday and he says the second half we were absolutely obliterated. We looked dead on our feet, and I think our passing was very, very suspect. We offered up so many chances to Crystal Palace. And I think, to be honest with you, looking at it, if we had left with a draw or even a loss, it wouldn't have shocked me looking at the chances and the game Alisson had. But great to get out there. Bullet header from Van Dijk, absolutely sublime cross from Robbo. Powerful the way Van Dijk should be. And I mentioned it on a couple of shows back on the Shankly sessions that we should be getting more goals from the likes of him and Matt Konate. These are powerhouses. So when they go up there, they should be delivering a lot more than they have been. Second goal to me, I thought Ox took the goal really, really well, but it was very suspect in terms of offside. I thought VAR maybe should have flagged the guy in the middle who went for the head and missed it. But he was certainly interfering with play. And then the third goal was a kind of I don't know what you call it. Definitely, to me, it wasn't a penalty anyway, and I'm a Liverpool man. I thought Jota took a right step into the keeper. The ball was gone and it was out of control. And in fairness, we seen a similar decision when Burnley played against us. And the penalty wasn't given, and it was practically the exact same when I think Alisson flew out and he clipped someone for Burnley at one of the front players. Burnley, I can't remember who it was, but the ball went out of play and the penalty wasn't given.
I think that was Chris Wood, wasn't it, that time?
It could have been Chris Wood. It could have been. I'm not too sure. No, it wasn't Chris Wood, because I think he was short, or wasn't he? It might have been Barnes or something, was it? I'm not too sure. One of the Burnley players anyway, but it happened a couple of weeks ago and they didn't get a penalty. So I thought it was a bit, I thought the penalty was a bit rough, and I kind of agreed with Vieira after the game. He felt he had a bit hard done by, but he was biting his lip because obviously he didn't want to get fined. And Klopp, I think Klopp made a reasonable point as well. He said, look, VAR looked at it. They asked the referee to look at it. But I noticed the VAR, the footage we seen, Mark, from VAR, it didn't actually show the side that you'd really want to see it from to actually show. And it did look, when you look at it in the slow motion, Jota definitely stepped to the right into the keeper when he knew he had lost control of the ball.
Yeah, you can see his eyes as well.
Now, some people will call that clever play by a forward. Other people will call, look, VAR should take care of that, really. But
the thing that annoyed me more about it, is
apart from it being Liverpool.
No. Well, listen, it's everyone's going to get decisions like that once or twice in a season where they shouldn't go that way, and they do, and that's just But I was watching the game live on Sky, and there's this thing about VAR now. Once Stockley Park have asked the ref to go and look at the monitor, he's going to change it, like every time. And now it's knowledge. So when they went over to the monitor, Jamie Carragher was like, oh no. He was like, this means they're going to give the penalty. Ref walks over, has a look, gives the penalty. Yeah, like, it's almost like they're going through the same thing all the time.
It's like they're doing it just for the sake of doing it.
And you're going, this is mental. Like, if your man in Stockley Park thinks it's a penalty, let him hold his hand up and go, it's a penalty. Don't be saying, I want you to go off the screen, have a little whiff of it, and turn around and go, pen. Because that's getting us nowhere at all, you know.
Well, see, what it does is it throws the onus back on. It takes the onus off Stockley Park and throws it back on the ref. So it's a kind of a blame sharing kind of thing.
For me, though, like Kevin Friend, his gut instinct was it wasn't a penalty, it's a goal kick. And as a referee, you should always go with your gut feeling. He obviously got a shout in the air from Craig Boston to go over, have a look at the screen. Now, one thing I would love to hear was a conversation between Kevin Friend and Craig Boston. Hopefully, we can get that in the future.
I think that's the little nugget that we need.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
we need to hear a conversation like we do in the rugby, that when the boys go, you get to hear your man sitting and thinks, well, I think it's a high tackle. I want you to have a look at the wrapping arm or blah, or whatever it is, or I think his foot's in touch, and they come away with this is like a bit kind of cloak and dagger shit for me at this stage.
And they're meant to be trialing in Qatar now in November. They're meant to be trialing something like that where you can actually hear the conversations between
it has to happen.
VAR officials and the referee.
It's not going to be any use. They're talking German now in the World Cup. That's different stage work, you know.
Yeah, that's it. But like it will, you know, we'll finally get answers for those decisions that we're talking about. It's going to
evolve, isn't it?
It has to
evolve. And it's even evolved since we took it on first. That now they're going to the monitors and now there's a process and stuff like that. So I think they're getting closer to it. But I mean, like, and I know I'm not going to get onto it now because obviously we're going to speak about VAR later on. So I'll hold me couple in me nose till later on because I've got quite a few over the weekend.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I'll be bringing up one that's really, really bad. And you mentioned it to me at the weekend, Darren. Ian's back with us again. How are we doing, Ian?
Yeah, I'll be bringing up two as well. Just
excellent. So, talk to us then. Big win for Chelsea at the weekend.
Yeah, sorry about that, lads. The Ghoulies got into my phone into my laptop somehow. So, it was a huge result. We're obviously talking Chelsea here, yeah. It was. Look, it's Tottenham. You kind of expect that result. I think Antonio Conte, the way he set up his team, kind of almost expected just to not get beaten and play on the counter attack, which you expect from Conte. But it was a huge result for us. It was a huge result for Tuchel. Obviously with the pressures of having so many draws previously, but it was a good match. It was a good performance. I think we probably could have won by a couple of more as well. It was a good result, just kind of similar to what Darren was saying, like about United. Kind of a result that's come at the right time. I'd probably be the opposite with Mark there, where I think it's the international break has come at the right time for us, considering we've pretty much played more, we played more than most of the rest. If you know, on the same par with Man City, so it was a good result going into the break, and kind of a little bit of a better fixture run now, where we can kind of reevaluate, readapt, and kind of see where we go from there. So I thought,
you need to get in a few bodies back, don't you? You know.
That's it. Like, I heard great news today. Obviously, Chalobah back. Reece James apparently will be back in training as well by that time, which is a huge miss. So, I was really impressed with the boy Sarr yesterday. Actually, playing at left back. He's a player that looks to. You know what I like about him? He's only turned 23 yesterday, I believe. And there's a player that no one was expecting to be part of the squad, but has just gradually worked his way into it. And it's great to see that. You know what I mean? That gives Tuchel another option now and say, right, I don't have to play Alonso anymore. You know, and I did say that on purpose, Alonso. And kind of give him an option to show, right, I'm in the hunt here. I think Hakim Ziyech had his best game in a Chelsea shirt yesterday since he's arrived. What a goal. I mean, Jesus Christ, I don't think any goalkeeper in the world would have saved it. It was absolutely fantastic.
And the one shortly after, he was so unlucky as well. It was a cracker as well.
He was. And Mark's boy, actually, Mason Mount, got his form back yesterday. He was so pivotal to how we played our game yesterday. His pressing game was vital, wasn't it? I mean, he was dancing around players at times. There was one little spot in the first half where you noticed he was doing a little juggling with the ball and kept it in play where people were like, how the fuck did he do that? So it was good to see, and you know, I think Rudiger's answered the question as well. Can he play in the back four? He's done it on a number of times. I think you're looking at Tuchel, like, has the players to play that 4-2-2-2 system. And I think that looks like our best system at the moment with the players that he has available. Bar Lukaku, I mean, I just you're dealing with a big overgrown lamppost playing up front. I just don't even talk about Lukaku at the moment.
It's hard to believe after spending so much money on the likes of Werner and Lukaku, these are going to go into the summer and probably look for two strikers.
To be honest with you, Daz, I personally think that we should have put all our effort into concentrating on keeping Koi as the false nine, to be honest with you, because that's when we've had our best games and our best performances. I mean, the boy won us the fucking Champions League as well, don't forget. I
think he's been very good for you. I just think he's a little bit glassy at times. That he needs to get over these knocks and niggles. And
he is. He's only 21, but I think when he's available and when he's fit, I think he needs to be the guy. And get him used to that kind of hustle and bustle of the Premier League. But I'll say one thing: you've called it, and you know I hold my hands up and I admit when I'm wrong. Lukaku is a toxicity in any dressing room he goes to. The lad, can anyone remember off the top of their head the last time he scored against the top side, even in Italy? He's a stat packer.
He tended not to do it.
He's a stat packer. You know what I mean?
He always shows up when you're 4-0 up, like, and that's the, you know.
Yeah.
The only time I remember getting vital goals against big teams was West Brom. Remember, they were struggling that season, and remember we got a few against us on the last season, and the last game of the season, the 5-5 draw, like, you know.
He really is. He's a toxic waste, being honest with you. I've no time for him. I'll never ever support him again. Listen, I know we can all be fickle as football fans, and of course, if he scores a goal that wins a Chelsea game, I'll be happy that my team won. But I will never ever support Brand Lukaku ever again in my entire life.
Yeah, two things I wanted to touch on with you. The boy Sarr, I think, has been outstanding. But what I really picked up on yesterday was he constantly in the game was communicating with Rudiger and with Thiago, and he was saying, where do you want me, where do you need me, where should I be? He was always looking for that bit of information, which I thought was brilliant. He was getting coached nearly live on the pitch,
to learn,
and it was open, so it was absolutely brilliant. The other thing I wanted to raise, obviously yesterday, Tuchel a year in charge. I was amazed at his post-match interview yesterday. He's actually quite a charming kind of guy when he talks. When he's obviously in good form and he's got a good result, obviously, you know. But I think the interviewer was trying to probe him nearly about being under kind of pressure at Chelsea and stuff like that. And he goes, no, he says, I feel as if it's the first day again. Every day here is brilliant and this kind of stuff. And he was really charming in the way he put it across and stuff like that, you know. And your man kind of asked him, how did he feel about his year? And he says, yeah, it's been a great year, hasn't it? You know, kind of thing. So it was kind of cool. It was interesting to see him, like, because he's been under the cosh for weeks now between injuries and, you know, players out and the Lukaku shit and everything being thrown at him and players' contracts at the back. And he's had a hell of a lot to deal with over the last 5 to 6 weeks. And it's nice to see at the back end he comes out and there's a bit of charm there and he was smiling.
Well, you can also, and I mean, this has to be said, lads, like, we couldn't get a game cancelled if we paid the Premier League £1 million fucking pounds. Couldn't get a game cancelled. At one point, we had 7 cases, legitimate cases, and injuries on top of that. And there was teams coming out. Now, I'm not going to throw a shot at Liverpool here because that's just a wind-up thing. But the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham, for example, Gary Neville made a very good point yesterday, lads. I don't know whether you noticed it. He said, how is it that we're this far into the season and Tottenham are 4 games in hand? How? They're not in the Champions League. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, how are we at that level? Like, where Chelsea can't get a game. So it does lend itself to the whole campaign against us. And we'll talk about VAR later as well, where, you know, a fellow Irishman is still on the pitch and not even a free kick where he tries to literally break a lad's ankle.
Matt Shockerty.
Fucking hell. Like, so, you know, there has been a lot of shit, and it's not conspiracy theory when you're looking at the facts. You know what I mean? But we've got on with it. We asked for one game to be cancelled. We realised it wasn't going to happen, and we continued on. So I think a little bit of respect has to be given to Tuchel for the fact that we did troop on, even with the injuries that we've had. Like, at the end of the day, Ben Chilwell and Reece James are pivotal to that three at the back system. And without them, Niall, last year with Liverpool, when you had those injuries and pivotal moments in the season, it's and look, we all get them. I'm not trying to say woe is me, but I think Tuchel has come across admirably, considering everything that's gone on this season. So good 3 points for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it anyway, Mark. Then let's talk about VAR. I know Darren has some examples. You probably have some yourself.
I can't wait for Daz to hear.
I've won. I'm sure, Ian, you have a couple, but I mean, it was really a weekend where VAR didn't do itself any favours. Neither did the referees, and we've already mentioned referees in the Premier League this season have been shocking anyway, regardless of VAR.
They decline every year, don't they?
Yeah. Mark, give us your thoughts.
Oh, where do you begin? I was looking at even the Leeds and Newcastle game. My own mate should have had a penalty as well. A tackle inside the box, clearly caught by the trailing leg of the Leeds defender, and it wasn't even looked at. Like, it was just waved away. I know we hear about consistency every week. You watch Sky Sports News and all, but like I said, we need more people manning the VAR systems for it to actually work, because it is human error that's happening. It's humans in control of the technology,
Mark, could I ask you a question? Is it human error though, or is it the FA also basically playing God at times? Let's be honest. Like, let's not pretend that I'm a cuckoo fucking tinfoil hat wearer here. It's quite clear when you see some decisions, they are being influenced as well by certain positions in where they are on the table as well. Like, come on.
But that's been going on for years, Ian, hasn't it? Like, since the early 90s, it's been going on. You hear referees,
but now they get
biographies and all.
Yeah, but now they are. Yeah, exactly, and they've never been held accountable. I mean, there's a court of lawsuit there on Graham. Was it Graham Powell that came out with it, or who was it that came out in the book and said, "Yeah, I could be influenced by referees, were influenced by players"? That never went anywhere. Like, at the end of the day, man, we're now in 2022 where it's meant to be as fair as possible. Like, if that happened, Darren's a tennis guy. I love watching the tennis as well. Like, in black and white, when it's out, it's out. When the fucking referee or the umpire, should I say, tells you something, that's it. It's law. Same with rugby. Football, which is the biggest sport and most profitable sport on the planet, is still being influenced by corrupt fucks in VAR now. And they get to go, oh, no, we won't look at that one. No, we won't look at that. Brush that one over. Oh, but this team is big. They need a 3 points. Yeah, penalty.
As well, Ian, at the end of the day, it's in the opinion of the referee. I know where you're coming from. Absolutely. I'm just talking about the VAR decisions that happened the weekend. It's in the opinion of that man that's in charge of the VAR system. And like I said, every other league around Europe has at least 5 men in the VAR gallery. One is in charge solely of the offsides. One is solely red cards. One is solely goal decisions. We only have one person in the VAR system in Stockley Park looking at it. This should have been invested in years ago when they knew it was coming into the league.
Well, what about that time? You remember the famous one where it was the first time it was actually Chelsea Tottenham about 2 years ago. Do you remember when one of the lads, I think it was your man Lo Celso or one of the Tottenham players, went in, studs up, nearly broke Azpilicueta's ankle, and they reviewed it for 5 minutes and they didn't give it. And then because of the heat that came on them and the corruption calls, they came back and went, oh, we actually got it wrong. Sorry. And that's all it was. It was sorry. Yeah.
Well, there's one for you now. Craig Pawson was in the VAR there a few weeks ago. Remember, was it Allison, I think?
Yeah.
Or remember against Newcastle, upended it wasn't given. And then you get Jota going over like he was brushed over by a feather yesterday, and he gives it. So you're kind of thinking, right, is he trying to make up for a few weeks ago? Do you know what I mean? Like I said, you can have as much technology as you want in the world. It's down to that person, that human being that's in charge of it.
Point of view, look.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose the problem you're looking at there, Mark, as well is the nature of football. I know you mentioned tennis and stuff like that, but tennis is very black and white in terms of how it operates, and it's not down to interpretation. If you look at football, you still have a guy in a boot who's trying to interpret a situation. Like if you take the Jota penalty against Crystal Palace, did he move to the right? Was he looking for it? Was he in control?
No, it should be black and white, Niall, though.
But it
should be black and white.
Yeah,
the rules are the rules.
Yeah, no, but I'm not talking in terms of the rules. I'm talking in terms of that interpretation at that given time, which means it doesn't make it black and white because you still have a guy there who hasn't got a full set of rules there in terms of his interpretation.
It's subjective.
Or the
it's subjective
from the FA as well.
No, it's subjective, and the issue is when something is subjective. This is Roy Keane brought this up a long time ago. When you give the referee the opportunity to make a decision, they're gonna make it, right? So there's a chance when you go in for that tackle that you get the red, and there's a chance you don't get it, and it's based on the individual holding the cards on that day. Now, whether that's if it goes to VAR, that's based on the individual that's sitting in the box at Stockley Park. That's not based on a certain set of rules, because tackles and penalty decisions and stuff like that are very, very subjective. They're not something like offside where you drop a set of lines down and it's factual and you go, well, that's that and that's that.
You're trying to interpret the intent of the player at the time.
You wouldn't believe the amount of times we have meetings in the FAI out in Abbottstown, and they show a video of an incident and they say, right, hands up if you think it's this, and the amount of times there's split decisions
50-50.
Exactly, because it goes down to you interpreting the laws of the game. And hopefully, you like to think in situations common sense prevails, but sometimes it doesn't. And as a fan, it's frustrating. As a referee, I can understand where they're coming from because it's in their opinion what they think has happened at the time, But you're always going to get that.
We're us three are, the four of us are actually lucky enough to kind of support clubs that have been successful and are always up there. You know what I mean, in the top echelon. Whereas it is true, the smaller teams don't get the call that the bigger teams do 9 out of 10 times. And the question I have is, why is that? If they're going with their gut feeling, why is that? Why, say, when Man United have a decision at the moment, as we saw, why does it take a little bit longer for them to look at every single angle to make the decision before they go, no, it's the client?
I think I'm reading an awful lot into this, Ian.
No, well, I am, because everyone is.
I'm definitely not.
No, you're not, because you're a United fan, of course.
Yeah, but here's I'm watching the City Southampton game on Saturday afternoon, and I don't have a horse in the race, and I need someone to tell me why Stuart Armstrong didn't get a red card.
I need someone to tell me that. Red card, yeah. Well, I initially seen it, then I seen the replays.
All day long.
The red, straight red all day long. Yeah. He's a
straight red all day long.
I don't know if you're saying Laporte's posting of the gash in his leg.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ. And people were thinking that he didn't even make contact, but the gash in his leg was unbelievable.
And that's Southampton and profiting from Man City,
Man City, the opposite.
So we can't, what I mean? And they looked at it and they looked at it and they looked at it, and you thought someone here is going to. And there's yesterday then with Liverpool, same again. Like, I'm scratching my head and I'm going, they've looked at this penalty so many times. Seriously, someone's got to look at this and go, this isn't a penalty. And then he goes to look at it. Jamie Carragher goes, oh, well, that's a penalty now, because he's gone to look at it on the screen. That's the issue,
Yeah.
I think we need to take our, tinfoil hats off when we're talking about conspiracies about certain teams and clubs and all. Like
I had last section about the Cavani one as well.
It's not mad considering United pretty much get the decisions all the time.
But Ian, even you look at the Cavani situation on Saturday. He is, to me, he's in line. But if his hand is off, meant to be in an offside position, it can't be because he can't score with his hand.
We'll go back last year to Liverpool and Chelsea. Me and Niall only talked about this last year. There was a goal where Werner chipped the ball over the keeper against Liverpool, and it was given offside because his fucking finger was offside.
Yeah, but they've changed that. They've changed that rule since.
Yeah, but it's now down to the bottom of the sleeve.
This is my issue. It's changing fucking every time.
Yeah, but the use of technology will always evolve. It won't stand still.
But there's no consistency in it, though.
That's David Ellery changing the laws as he sees fit.
They're changing it at the start of the season. They're not changing it mid-game to suit certain situations.
No, but they're not going by. There's still, as Niall said, there's no actual factual way of going, yeah, this is determined by the letter of the law. It's all interpretation.
Yeah.
It's all interpretation.
Well, they've also introduced some good stuff as well. I mean, one of the things I like that they've introduced is they're allowing, Mark, and you could probably back me up on this, a little bit more physicality in the tackle at times before blowing up and stuff like that. And they've been instructed to let that go a little bit.
You haven't.
Which in fairness, I think for our three teams, it kind of favors us a little bit because we're kind of physical teams. So I think that would work in our favor.
There is pros and cons to everything. You see, for the all sides now, you have to let the game roll on. That can lead to injuries for players as well. So there is kind of cons to it as well. You know, that's the way.
But Victor Lindelof almost losing a couple of weeks ago against Norwich over
when he went into the post and stuff. But it's they are trying to change the laws as they see fit. We're not going to get an end product, you know. ASAP. This has been here since 2012. They've been developing.
I don't think we're ever going to get an end product, really. Are we?
No,
really?
but that's why I'm saying you're never going to. So there's no point seeking it because it's always going to come down to human error at the end of the day. You know.
It's probably not as much to do with the technology as it's to do with the level of intelligence in the bums in the seats, basically, isn't it? Really,
that's it.
That's really what it boils down to. Mark, one of the points that was raised at the weekend, I know Darren's chomping, he wants to come in with a couple of examples and have a chat about them, but one of the points that was raised at the weekend was, should there be a Stockley Park or should there be a boot at the ground for VAR that the ref, you know, as opposed to like if you're away at Stockley Park, you're kind of protected, you're not in it, if you know what I mean. Yes. And the talk was that every ground should have a boot and that should be their Stockley Park on game day, and that the ref goes and he references that as opposed to communicating with Stockley Park. What you thinking on that? Tell me what's the pros and the cons of that? Or what are you thinking?
Well, firstly, the FA should invest. It's down to the FA. It's not down to the individual clubs to do that because it's the FA's. They're there to instruct all these referees in Stockley Park to go with the laws of the game. So it is down to the FA to invest, which they haven't been doing over the last 10, 15 years, which they should be doing because they knew this was coming in like, 13 years ago or so?
Yeah.
And we're still talking about it here today. So financially, they should be investing. I think you look at it, I think if it is in the ground for them, it's a security thing as well because you see the referee. Did you see the referee getting abused by the fans leaving the ground there against Palace? The Palace Liverpool game the other day. Yeah. And for them, it's handy to have it in Stockley Park as well because
it was sight out of mind.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's what I'm saying. If you have a boot in the ground and it doesn't go your way, it's going to get ransacked. Like, you know, you can have as much security there as you want. They're still going to get abused. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen. And it doesn't happen in many other leagues as well. They all have a base, whether it's in the German FA or wherever it is. They all have a base there. It's never in the individual ground itself.
But you're talking, when you look at Europe, Darren, sorry for cutting in there. When you look at Europe, though, you're talking about a totally different level of quality of ref.
Compared
to what we're dealing with in the Premier League.
Listen, absolutely. Because do you ever see it on Sky Sports News or whatever about the German League or the Spanish League being discussed? It's always the Premier League. Every weekend there's something at VAR. But again,
the referees are much better. And
that's what I'm saying. That's what it goes back to is the level of consistency and expertise from the referees.
Like Darren, for example, Mark, like you would consider probably as a referee, like Pierluigi Collina is probably the best of all time, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
He could not be influenced by anything. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of the lack of what we're seeing. I know there was a couple of guys as well that the European lads just seem to be more, no, that's the decision. Get the fuck out of my face. That's it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll hold my hands up at the end of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I always say it, like I've said it on this program many a time, the Premier League are the lowest paid referees in the top 5 clubs, the top 5 leagues across Europe. So if the FA want to take a good look at themselves and actually invest in officials.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe invest in the training of it and also pay them a little bit more. I don't know.
When you look at it, sorry for cutting across you, Darren, assistant referees in La Liga get €2,000 a game. Assistant referees in the Premier League get €750 a game. And when you consider I can go out next weekend to Brickfields, referee an under 18s game and get €50 for it, and not have the pressure of being an assistant referee in the Premier League with 50,000 people behind me, that says it all.
Yeah, good point.
Pay peanuts, get monkeys.
That's
Not what they say,
exactly
lads.
it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's true, Darren. Yeah.
That's exactly it. So again, it goes back to the FA, lads. You know, there's referees. There's some referees in the Premier League, the likes of John Moss, that you look at and go, how is he still refereeing? You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He should be working in that fucking shop, Moss Brothers. They sell suits. It's about as fucking useful as he is, tramp.
Compost.
He should be working in
Fuck's
NXT.
sake.
He should be working in NXT.
Did you see that? He actually opened the vinyl record shop and he called it the vinyl whistle.
Oh God.
I think that's actually kind of cool, man.
I have
like
some
the name of that.
I have some breaking news.
Go for it.
Roy Hodgson is very close to being named Watford head coach.
Why?
Because they're dying to get relegated.
They are up for the drop.
I thought that was a big Sam job.
Quality manager, ex-Liverpool, man.
Poor old Claudio Ranieri, lads. Just saying.
He's handsomely paid. He's not getting any sympathy off this show.
I'm fairly sure I called he'd be sacked before the end of the season.
You did. I was on that one, I think.
You actually mentioned as well that they could go through a number of managers this season. Absolutely.
You did.
They're a shambles. They're an absolute shambles.
Is there a
They're
case
probably going to get an NFT as a manager at some point.
I wonder could Roy be gone by Paddy's Day as well and they get a forward?
Have you seen the next 6 fixtures?
Yeah.
They're like West Ham, Brighton, Villa, United, Leicester and Arsenal.
The fans will be wondering why they didn't win them all.
Jesus.
Mark, I wanted to touch another thing that came out, Darren as well, and Ian on this one. We're seeing some violence creeping back into the crowds again. We seen at the weekend there, Dina and Cash struck with a bottle by the Everton fans, and we also seen it with Rudiger. I think was hit with a lighter by the away fans, and he was quite irate about it. I know that the guy who threw the bottle at the Everton game, I think they mentioned he was a 16-year-old and he was arrested, and I don't know what's going to happen there, but that's where it's at the moment. Yeah. But
they got two boys. They got two boys from the Chelsea game as well.
Oh, did they? They got them as well. I didn't say that.
They got
did,
two lads. Yeah,
they did.
Two of them.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have to. I mean, lads, they're gonna have to make an example of these guys, aren't they? Because this is just totally out of order, isn't it?
Listen, Darren, you go ahead.
Nah, it's just, like, we all love football, lads. I love you. I love my club, and I want them to win every game. But the facts of the matter are, that's just not going to happen. If we're living in the real world, they're not going to win every single game. They're not going to get every single decision. And football fans have to be aware of that going to a game. But I have to say, like, and I don't want to sound like the fun police when I say this. And we spoke about it before we came on air. Match days now for football fans is how many points can you have? Yeah. And that's a 100%. Massive issue. That's 100%. A massive issue. I've been to Old Trafford with lads, and we were at United Portsmouth. It was the night Ronaldo scored that free kick against David James. Mm-hmm. One of the boys I was with didn't remember the free kick the next morning. That's how juiced he was. Do you know? Like, you've missed probably one of the best free kicks ever in the Premier League history because you're tanked up to the gills on Gargle. And when guys get into that sort of shape and condition, they're going to do stupid things.
It's crazy.
They do stupid things on the way to the game, on the way away from the game, and at the game. I've seen United fans wreck their own bleeding jacks, kick the sinks off the walls. Trafford. You're going, what are you doing? This is our club. Like, what are you actually thinking of?
Someone has to pay for that, which is our club, yeah.
Right, and I don't want to listen. I don't want to be that guy. But I have to say, there's a serious issue with the youth of today. There really, really is. And it needs to be addressed because, if that was me and I did something like that, my old man would give me a couple of slaps when I go home and say, when you're out there, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing your team, your family, your club, your area, all of that. Whereas now, like, they'll go back and I'm sure their mates will think, oh, you're a legend, Johnny, you hit Rudiger with a lighter or whatever, and will they get the, reprimanded the way they should by their parents? It's highly unlikely, highly, and that's my problem with it, cue all
no,
the coming in from the parents.
They probably try and sue the fucking club for being too rough on young Johnny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
To pull that card.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I concur with Darren 100%. At the end of the day, right, we may get hot about a penalty decision or a refereeing decision or whatever. It's like, look, I used to be, and still am, I suppose. I'd be a Celtic man, right? I remember back in the day when New Dallas got hit with the coin, and it never really sat right with me. You know what I mean? Even as a Celtic man, I was like, look, whatever about the fucking, whether it was corrupt or whether it was this or whether it was that, that's not the way to go about things. You know what I mean? It never is the way to go about things. It's like the old adage of violence doesn't solve anything. Realistically, it doesn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't. We've all been idiots as kids and went out and probably had a bit of a ruckus or something, and you wake up the next day going, oh, shite, don't feel great about that now. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, it seemed like a great idea. And Darren has hit the fucking nail in the head now. It's all about point measuring. How many points can you drink? Why not go to the game, have a point before it, just before the match starts, and then have another point or two during the interval, the 15 minutes, get another one or two in, the same way you do going to a gig, you know what I mean? And then go out and have your night out. There's too much. I think that the drink culture is a big, big problem. Especially with these young lads, and I think Darren's, like I say, Darren, I can't fault anything you've said there. It's 100% a young lad thing. The new generation, in my opinion, is fucked. They just don't know the difference between wrong and right, or left from right, even most of the time. And it's crazy how look, I don't think anybody should be hurt at a football game, especially when they're whether it be a fan, or whether it be someone that's actually doing their profession, whether it be a referee, a linesman, a footballer, a manager, whatever. I just think it's absolutely wrong. And, we can point the finger of blame at this club or that club or whatever. Everyone's club's guilty of it. Everyone's club.
Yeah.
And we need to take that out of our brains, because as you said it as well, like, with the whole conspiracy theory with clubs, we always think our club is the perfect club and we're being done wrong, or we're not, we're not getting the rub of the green, or we're not getting this. Look, at the end of the day, every single club is guilty of it. Their fans are guilty of it, should I say. Every single club's fans are guilty of it, including racism, including abuse, including, it's just, I don't know how you stop it, but it does need to be stopped.
Yeah, I think Darren's right. That blend of alcohol plus that kind of atmosphere at a match.
Yeah.
And you'll probably find that some of these guys that get caught up in it could be the most normal 9 to 5 working guys that you'd ever meet all week long. But once you put them into that cauldron of alcohol and that atmosphere, and I suppose some people would say if you're an Everton fan, you have to go watch Everton every week. You might need to get tanked, and maybe Spurs is the same.
Well,
but that's neither here nor there.
I listened to a funny thing today, lads. You'll actually appreciate this. Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden, he has a podcast, and he talks to a psychologist. That's his right-hand man, the psychologist. And they were talking about psychopaths. And they were saying, they actually made the example of Millwall, which is a great example, right? And they were like, oh, so you're talking about Millwall there. And he made the point going, right, you could have the most normal 9 to 5 guy, like you just said, Niall, does his work, goes home, feeds his family, pays his bills, blah blah blah, but he could just not be ready for the drink, and he gets 1 or 2 points in, then he becomes an absolute psychopath and is not in control of his own body. And that is literally probably about 7 or 8 out of 10 fans that go to these games, and they say stuff and go, oh God, why do I do that? You know what I mean?
Do we remember Frank the Tank from All School?
Yeah. Very good point. Exactly.
That's exactly it.
That's exactly it.
A guy trying to live his life the right way has a couple too many jars, and all of a sudden, bang,
game over.
Gets a belt of the Brave Hammer, and all of a sudden, shit's going down. But it's destroying the game, which is the problem.
It is.
Well, speaking of psychopaths and hard men, that's a nice little segue into our show that's coming up on Wednesday night. We're going to be doing a Royal Rumble show because it's Royal Rumble week, and we're going to be doing a Royal Rumble show on the 30th 30 hardest men in football, and we're going to be whittling it down to our final 4 and then our winner of the hardest men in football Royal Rumble.
According to BT Sport, by the way.
We took the picks from BT Sports picks, all right, because we didn't want to invest the time in doing it ourselves, so we just put it there, really.
No, Ian Holloway.
Why bark when you have a dog?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it wags the tail. Yeah. So look forward to that episode on Wednesday night. It should be a lot of fun. I'm sure there'll be a lot of debate on it about who was harder than who and all that kind of stuff. But the task for the men on the show is to whittle it down to your final 4 in the ring, and then who is the winner of our Royal Rumble.
I'll just say, if John Hartson doesn't win it, then there's something wrong.
He's in the mix, let's say.
He's definitely in the mix.
He's definitely in the mix.
Definitely got A.L. Berkovic's vote.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If he could still ride after that kick. Let's turn it up a little bit and talk about the top 4 race. I suppose we have somewhat of hanging on to a title race as much as we can, because we don't want the title race to be over too early in the season. Obviously, Chelsea picked up a big win at the weekend, so they're looking up now instead of over their shoulder. And Man United moved up into the top 4, and I think, Darren, you alluded to it on a previous show that you thought out of the other 4 teams that were battling it out for the 4th spot, Man United would be the ones that would have the quality and would eventually come through. So, Mark, give us your thoughts. Top 4 race.
Yeah, it's looking tight there, because, like Ian alluded to earlier, Spurs have a good few games in hand there as well, where they can be back in the mix. Like I said, hopefully we can go on a run now. You have Arsenal that have been playing well as well, so it's fairly tight. I'm hoping we can do enough to stay in the top 4, obviously. But we've a few tough games going to be coming up as well. So, but hopefully, Ralph, like I said, it's just a pity the break now. We had a bit of momentum coming in from the Brentford game into the West Ham game, and obviously you would have taken that into the next game if it had been this weekend. But like I said, a week in Dubai can't do them any harm, and we'll see what happens then.
Yeah, Darren.
Yeah, I suppose I spoke about it on Friday evening. I think it's 2 from 3, if I'm honest. I think it's Chelsea, United, and Spurs vying for 2 spots. I think the top 2 are solidified in their space. I think Chelsea are in the driver's seat for that 3rd spot. I think the only thing that's giving United and Spurs a chance is obviously the games in hand. I think Spurs have maybe 3 or 4, and we certainly have 2. So it's leaving a lot to play for going into that final phase of the season. But I fully expect it to be United and Chelsea taking the spots. I think unless Spurs do something massive in this last week in the window, the squad's just not where it needs to be, and they haven't backed Antonio Conte. I can't believe, if you're a Spurs fan, you think they've gone out and they've got one of the elite managers in world football, one of the elite coaches, and they've put themselves in a really good position. And you get to a January transfer window. What are we now? We 22nd, 23rd? And 24th. And they still haven't got a body in the window yet. Like, with 1 week to go. That's mental.
But even Darren, you're
mental.
100% true. Like, I'd be a big Antonio Conte fan. I followed his career, from his Juventus days and his Italian national team managing days, and then obviously when he came to us. And I still always have love for Antonio Conte. I can't say I'm bad about him. I love the guy. I watched him yesterday. He just looked deflated. Like, he had to set that team up to not concede, because it was like, right, I know Chelsea have too much quality here. Whatever he's going to put out, I don't have it to match. My big player, Harry Kane, is not stepping up. He's not stepping up. I'm sorry, he's not.
No.
Even a striker to bring in that he wants to go, right, boom, I'm going to bring in someone just to compete with him. Or, someone in the back line that fits my system where they actually play that pass. For example, that 3 at the back, don't forget, was made famous in the Premier League by Antonio Conte. And he had the players that could play that long pass. And even if you look at the Juventus days, he had the Bonucci, who could play that long pass over the top. and just literally change the whole dynamic of a system with one pass. He's not been backed, and I'm going to make a quick prediction. I think he's gone in the summer, because I think now he's going to be shown. Levy is Levy's a piece of shit. He'll sell you the sun, moon, and stars. It would not surprise me, and I think the commentators had alluded to it yesterday, didn't they, lads? That like Conte won't be here if he doesn't get what he wants.
Do you reckon, Mark, is it a case that maybe teams have been waiting for this break to happen so they can just focus on the business as opposed to focusing on the football and the business? Or do you reckon a lot of these teams, they ain't going to sign, they ain't going to get people in?
I think it is a lot to do with that. And obviously with the COVID going on as well, a lot of people and a lot of teams don't know if they're coming or going, you know. But I wanted to mention about Kane there. You know, he hasn't been the same player since he came from the Euros, and that move fell through at all. We might have seen glimpses of him here and there, but he definitely isn't the same player. And I'd be surprised if he's there next season. And like you totally agree. I think Conte was sold everything by Mr. Levy, and it's not happening. And I can see him
sold a bill of goods,
exactly. And I can see him going during the summer. There's no doubt about it. And I'd say there'll be a few more to follow.
He absolutely looked deflated yesterday. And I agree with a lot and almost everything Ian said. You know, he just looked like he looked at this Rolls Royce across the road and he went, my Fiesta's not going to beat that, you know. And when you go to Chelsea, you're looking to pick up a result, keep you in the hunt for top four. You're playing 4 fullbacks, you know, and you're like, this is not good. You've just gone full tilt Jose Mourinho on this. Let's get the bus. Let's take the wheels off it. Let's push it up against the door and let's hope nothing. And when they concede the goal, you're going, right, well, we're in real trouble now because we don't have 2 winners.
Now we have to come out.
We don't have 2 winners. And he didn't even make an attempt to get them out. He just went, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it in the hope. If we nick something on the rollover here, this would be a serious smash and grab. Get a point and get out of here. And I would, you know, I didn't want to see Chelsea maybe win yesterday because I wanted to keep them closer. But there was a little bit of me that saw the result, saw the game, and went, you know what, I'm kind of delighted you lost because I don't like seeing football teams go out and play like that. And this will go back to my original thing about Conte and about United. United fans, you know, I think you get away with a certain amount because you're Spurs and because you don't have trophies behind you. If he does that with United at Stamford Bridge, good luck.
But he probably wouldn't do that, Darren, because he has a bit of talent there to work with. I mean, Spurs, realistically, I mean, if you look at that midfield of Hallberg and Winks, it's absolutely shocking. Shocking. He has very little to work with there. Like when you talk about him needing players, he needs players all over the park. That's so
that's the point Darren's making, though. That's the point Darren's making.
But what I'm thinking is if Conte goes to United, I mean, there's quality there for him to work with. He's not going to park the bus.
Yeah, but like I gotta say, I've seen the boy Giovanni Lo Celso on a number of occasions. The kid looks like an absolute baller. Now Conte's looked at him and says, "Doesn't fit my mold."
Darren is right. Darren is 100% right. Don't forget, remember that game, Chelsea versus Man City, where they literally sat back and didn't attack at all? That famous game where City were literally just playing pass back. They were 2-0 up. Conte has that in him, and that's when Conte is letting the upper fucking management know.
The upper tier.
You reckon Ian, his head's turned already?
1,000,000%. What did you see? Like, if you look at even him over the last 3 or 4 games, even when they won, it's not the same Conte jumping into the fans. Or I know obviously they can't jump into the fans with COVID, but he's a passionate man. Like,
well. In fairness, the win against Leicester, he gave
it a go. Yeah, he did.
Okay, yeah, he let it go there because he obviously likes winning. But what I'm saying is, when you look at yesterday, he was not shouting at players the way he would normally shout at players.
Yeah, like I say, zapped, didn't he?
I've watched this man, as I said, for years and years and years. He's not. It's 100%. I think Mark is right. I'm glad you backed me up there, Mark. I think 1,000,000% he's gone in the summer unless he's promised a kitty of like at least 200 million.
When we were on the golf circuit, you know, and you'd have a nice 14 handicapper out there, and he'd be maybe 8 over with 2 holes to go, and then he'd make a couple of doubles, and he'd be sandbagging to make it look like it was worse than, you know what I mean, just to cling on to things,
just to keep the 14,
just to keep the 14. Yesterday, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was like, I'm not sending them out here to be beaten, but I know with what I'm putting out, they can't win, and that slides more pressure. That's now. Here we go, Daniel Levy. The ball's in your court. What are you gonna do? Well,
you've an elite manager, yeah.
We look at today. All of a sudden, the deal for Adama is almost done. Right? So Levy's already gone, okay, we need to help this guy out here. So if he gets Adama in, if he gets a second one in, if he gets a third one in, maybe 3 is enough. Personally, I think he needs more than 3.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he's got Son, who's going to return before the end of the season. And I'm sure he's looking to get the boy Christian Romero back fit on the pitch. But I still think he needs more. Like, you're probably talking about Dele Alli, Giovanni Lo Celso, and the boy and Ndombele all leaving before the end of the window. Now, like, they've all, under different managers, looked like serious footballers. You know, there's a lot of people looked for the boy Ndombele when he was leaving France. He was involved in big conversations around a lot of football clubs.
Lyon, wasn't he? He was with Lyon.
He was at Lyon, yeah. The boy, Lo Celso, again, very, very cultured footballer. Technically, he's very gifted. At times, at Spurs, he looked really, really good. Conte's gone, you know what? You don't fit the mold of what do I want, so you're gone. Dele Alli, listen, we know all about Dele Alli. He's been on a steady decline for the last couple of years, but at one stage, he was big news in that Premier League. Now, I'm not going to hedge on me bets on Dele Alli here, because we've obviously seen, you know, we've seen the Amazon documentary. Jesus Christ, Dele, you're the worst trainer I've ever seen in my life. So that's going to obviously add to it. We've read the stuff in the paper. Even his missus pulled him off. He's playing too much Fortnite. So, like, the kid's obviously on. Someone needs to get in his ear now and go, listen, kid, you can have all the talent and all the ability in the world, but unless you go out there and you put it out and you leave it out there, this all goes out the window. He's going to end up like Jack Rodwell playing for fucking Sunderland on another documentary in 2 or 3 years if he doesn't get his finger out. And we know this kid has ability, but he needs to start showing it, you know.
He's done it. He's done it.
He has, but he's got to, you know, it's got to be sustained. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Let's touch on Arsenal. Obviously, the Vlahovic deal. The Vlahovic deal.
Let's do. London is what?
Blue. But let's touch on Arsenal. I mean, the Vlahovic deal looks like it's gone away. It looks like he's not interested.
You know, Larry Murphy walked past Highbury and even he wouldn't touch them.
He might now. There's some nice apartments over there. But yeah, let's talk. I mean, we have to discuss Arsenal. We are talking about top 4, and they are somewhat in the race, but a bit blunt up front. They've had a pretty poor January, out of the Carabao Cup, out of the FA Cup to Nottingham Forest, and although some of the performances in the league have been decent, they haven't yielded the results that they would like. Aubameyang kind of out in the cold. They're crying out for a striker now. I know he hasn't been knocking it out of the park even before he was put out in the cold, but he was having kind of a poor season anyway. Lacazette is certainly not the answer. Vlahovic is off the table. He seems to.
Yeah, well, you mentioned he turned around. Fabrizio Romano said today, under no circumstance will he go to Arsenal.
Yeah.
Until the end of the season, and he can evaluate what he wants. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're talking about they're switching their focus to this guy, Isaac, who's going to take a shed load of money to move, which I don't
from Sociedad.
Yeah, I don't think Arsenal are going to pump in the money that's been spoken about.
And he's not prolific either, no.
I'll tell you what, he's a serious footballer, that kid.
He's a great footballer. No, I've seen him play.
He's a serious footballer.
Quality, but what I'm saying is he's not the goal scorer that they're looking for. Like Vlahovic is the goal scorer, whereas he is a quality player. I agree.
You know what? I actually think he would be a super move for Arsenal, and I'll tell you why. If you look at what they have around, you've got the Sakas, you've got the Martinellis, you've got the Odegaards, you've got the Smith Rowes, and you know you've got a lot of talent around that. You're missing a focal point. You're missing maybe the Roberto Firmino who tied all the guys at Liverpool together. And I think somebody like that, maybe as Ian's alluded to, he's not the goal scorer, but maybe he's the cog that keeps
Bring the other
everything else
boys in.
turning.
Bring them all in there. Yeah.
And I think that could be a phenomenal signing. But
Good show.
As Niall said, that's going to cost you big bucks to get out of Sociedad. Big bucks.
They have to get Aubameyang off the books as well, don't they? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, and Darren mentioned last week there's been interest from Saudi Arabia and Aubameyang, but it seems
he said today he'll only go to a club in Europe. He doesn't want to go there. He came out and said today. So
that's until they back the bleeding camel up and start fucking dropping 50s off the back of it. And he will jump all over that, man.
Yeah, but I mean, it's safe to say they're going to have to bring in a couple of players in this window if they want to make any run at the top four whatsoever. They're really struggling at the moment.
I think up to a point, Arteta's doing a really good job. But I do think he's about 3 or 4 short to be even top 4. To really get the hammer on it. And
like if we're saying Tottenham are in trouble, like Arsenal still need that couple of players that fit their system too. It's different systems that we're talking about, obviously.
Yeah.
But they definitely need a couple in there. And I do think a striker. You know what? Darren's going to sell me on the kind of Isaac deal. I mean, it's.
I think they need 2 strikers come in as well, because like you said, no, Lacazette will do a job for you. But when you have the talent like Darren mentioned there, Smith Rowe, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, you obviously if you got Isaac in, but you need cover for him as well. I think, especially if Aubameyang goes,
Yeah,
they absolutely need bare minimum 2 strikers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Eddie Nketiah isn't going to cut it. Aubameyang's going to be in Saudi Arabia, and Lacazette has toiled at Arsenal and hasn't produced anywhere near the level of what their investment was in him.
In terms, Darren, of your talk on Arteta there, it was an interesting point that you raised. He's kind of a little bit sort of blunt in his approach as well. Do you feel like he could be a little bit more flexible in terms of, look, we know the shit that Aubameyang has done. We know why he's out in the wind and stuff like that. I listened to some of the Arsenal fans during the week there, and they were talking, look, we're crying out for a striker. We're crying out for a goal scorer. You've put him out there. You've punished him. You've done what you had to do. Is there an opportunity for a way back here? Even though I know his form wasn't great before he went out in the wind. But I mean, he is the kind of guy that you could bring back in there. You are paying him a truckload of money. So the question is, why not feed him back in there and maybe use him and maybe sit down and be that manager, as opposed to being, fuck off, you're at the back of the class and I don't give a shit. But yeah, I need you.
I've got to say, I would absolutely 112% back Mikel Arteta on this. I think he's a disease, the lad. I really do. And I think when you've got Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka's, Odegaard's, young, hungry Ben White, Ramsdale, and Tommy Asu, good young footballers with lots of talent and lots of ability. You don't want somebody to come in and absolutely poison a generation of footballers at Arsenal. I think the worst thing Arsenal could do is take Aubameyang back into the fold. I think he's absolutely right. I think that the supporters should back the manager. They should see how far they've come under Arteta. He's made changes. Arsenal are a far more solid side at the back. He's trying to go through that midfield now, and he'll get to that up front and that kind of attacking phase of the pitch. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow burn for them. I think they're still 18 months away from being a really, really top side. But with a couple of good additions, I think Arteta could really help Arsenal get into that equation.
And they were also talking this week, apparently there's a 2-year extension on the table at the moment for Arteta. And I seen one of the places reported, and I thought, now this was hilarious, but see what you think on this, that apparently the idea of the 2-year extension was to fend off interest from Man City, that apparently he could be taken over from Pep.
Yeah, that's madness.
Hey, come buy my shit. It doesn't smell.
Yeah, that's. I'm only talking about what was put out there. It certainly wouldn't be my view anyway. That's for sure.
We're talking conspiracy theories. Jesus H. Christ.
100%. 2 things I just want to end on. One, Brendan Rodgers gave an interview. He got sort of slapped up again there. He's can't seem to hold on to a lead. But he kind of alluded in his post-match comments and his interview that maybe he's taken Leicester as far as he can, and maybe it's time to move on, which is what I read into it. Mark, thoughts on that?
Yeah, like you look at them over the last while, they haven't really been up to much, have they? Vardy's been very quiet this season. I know Daka's gotten a few over the last 2 or 3 games, hasn't he? He's been starting, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, you look at it and go, if he did leave Leicester, like, where will he go? Like, there's not like you look, he's
Spurs.
He might end up
he could. You listen.
Accident.
Yeah, he could do it actually, but
Watford.
Yeah, well, Boy is in there,
Now,
isn't
come
he?
on. Niall, don't be bitter.
No, like sure, he was linked with us, wasn't he? Before
he might end up
at
at PSG when Pochettino comes to United in the summer.
Imagine it.
True.
Jesus.
True.
Signing the cash for Schmeichel and all. But no, he's done a decent job winning the trophies he's won, and like I said, he just hasn't gotten it out of the players this season for some reason. Where are they? 8th or 9th in the league now, are they?
Yeah, I think they're in around that. But the talk that's coming out, like, I mean, he hasn't been able to convince Tielemans to stay and stuff like that. There's been a lot of talk of players who kind of want
Liverpool
to hit the exit door.
Summer.
A lot of players are in. Apparently, he was heavily linked with Arsenal as well, but apparently Arsenal don't see him as a player that would move them on, which I was quite surprised.
Could see him at Liverpool.
Darren mentioned that previously in shows as well, that he could see Tielemans at Liverpool doing really well. Yeah. Certainly at a time where our midfield is a little bit ropey, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, no, because when he signed on loan, he was brilliant. Then he signed permanently, and it was a kind of little new bending in period. But he's just been unreal lately over the start of the season, anyway. But I just think you look at Vardy, and he hasn't been scoring as much, and you take his goals out of the team, and you're looking. Iniacho scored a few and stuff, but when Vardy's not on fire, they really know all about it.
I gotta say, I think he's been a little bit unlucky, Rodgers. They've had a phenomenal amount of injuries. They really, really have. You look at very early on the boy Fofana, who was such a big player for them.
Quality.
Been in and out of the team. You've got the AFCON, which takes Ndidi, Amartey, Iheanacho all out of the side as well. I think he's been struggling to get the side he wants to get out on the pitch. I think if he could do that for a number of games, you might see Leicester, rejuvenate themselves a little bit. But I think he needs to.
Even Johnny Evans missing Darren. He was a big miss for them, I thought, when he was injured.
Pitching in and scoring goals and everything he was. Yeah, interesting. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. I want to finish up with one. Gerrard came out with a quote there the other day. He was asked about his relationship with Jamie Carragher, and he turned around and he says he doesn't really text me anymore or communicate with me. Neville robbed him of his best mate, which I thought was just a hilarious comment to finish up on.
Gerrard, in fairness, he got a win at least the other day.
So I think he's done really well so far. I think he handles himself really well. I think his interviews are really well. I think his man management is really well, and I think he's going to do a lot of real good stuff at Aston Villa.
What's his points total so far? What's his win ratio?
I haven't looked at his win ratio, but
of course you haven't, yeah, because you just see him as a Liverpool man.
He's done nothing. Well, he's beaten 2 teams that you drew against.
Yeah, but he's done nothing.
He beat Everton and he beat Brighton.
Yeah. So now you're basically you're gone back. You're the host. Remember this.
Yeah.
You're now put your Liverpool hat on. So we're in the Shankly sessions. We're in now.
No. We're still on the chair.
We're in the Shankly sessions.
I think he's done a phenomenal job, and I'm a United fan.
Yeah, but how many games has he had so far, and what's his win-loss ratio?
I think he's won in the Premier League. I think he's won 6 out of 9.
And he's only dropped points mainly to the bigger clubs.
Well,
he's only lost, as far as I know, looking at it, apart from the Leicester defeat, he's only dropped points to City, Liverpool, and
United.
Is it United or Chelsea?
United.
Yeah.
And Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah, so he's only gone in there and taken over. And if you look at it, he's only dropped points to the top 4, basically, if you look. He's basically
he's got a serious team there, lads. And if he hadn't been able to get Watkins and Ings playing together, that would just be the cream on top. But some of the players there, unbelievable. You've seen them the signing of Coutinho. Only he could have got Coutinho in Aston Villa, you know. He wouldn't have went otherwise.
That's a fact. Yeah.
And also a lot of players there under Dean Smith that weren't performing are now performing. So I think apart from the Liverpool hat and stuff like that, I think he's doing a really, really good job there. And I think he's only a couple of more signings away from becoming a force again with Aston Villa. I think.
Well, we'll see next year.
I think they play a really, really good brand of football as well under him as well.
That's because you hope he's your next manager. That's why.
I don't know. I'm learning from Solskjaer and Lampard. I wouldn't be that quick.
Yeah, I wouldn't either be if I was you. Because I don't think he's all that.
Well, listen, lads, it's been a pleasure having you on. This has been the Monday Mashup. We won't be returning, I think, until February the 7th with the Monday Mashup. So we have a bit of break, but myself and the boys will be back for our Royal Rumble show on Wednesday. Myself and Darren will also be doing an updated show on the AFCON. And we'd like to actually send our thoughts and prayers, obviously send our thoughts and prayers to those 6 people who lost their lives today in that stampede and the 40 who also got injured. Also earlier I meant to mention when Mark mentioned Victor Lindelof as well, our thoughts go out to him and his family as well, who went through a traumatic house robbery during the Brentford game as well, and Victor's taking a bit of time off, so thoughts go out to those as well. His family and his kids were heavily involved in it, so yeah.
Hurry back, Victor, will you? We'll be left with fucking Harry otherwise.
True. He knows that as much as you do. Don't worry about that.
I was going to say, was someone rob Harry's gaff? But...
Well, anyway.
If you saw the size of that mallet, would you attempt it?
True. Very true.
Well, lads, as always, a pleasure. If you want to leave your comments, pop them down there in the episode. As always, you can contact us, the uppertierpodcast@gmail.com. You'll get us on Twitter at the _upper_tier. Also, check out Ian's new channel, Dynamo's Dozen, putting content up there, some great guests this week, and also some great shows going up.
Jeff Jarrett tomorrow, baby.
Jeff Jarrett going up tomorrow, but there's a couple of others coming up as well that a lot of people.
Vince Russo is confirmed, yeah.
Vince Russo on the way, and what was the other one? Sonny Ono. Sonny Ono, some really good guests. Yeah. Not only that, get over there to Anchor and Spotify and check out the back catalogue for Dynamo's Dozen, which includes some wrestling greats as Harley Race, and also a certain man from Pantera. Who is it, Ian?
It's Phil Anselmo, yeah.
Phil Anselmo as well, so great catalogue there. As always, if you need any trophies for that particular occasion or a charity event or a fundraising event, Hogan Elite Trophy Hire is the place to be. They're on Facebook there. Hit up Mark. He will sort you out with a nice little upper tier discount. And if you're not nice, he'll charge you double. Until next time, my friends, absolute pleasure. We'll chat to you soon.